Claire. That was a
Thank
great
you, Claire.
presentation.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much. This was a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And
See you
Scoop,
tomorrow, Claire.
where's Scoop at? Scoop's still there?
He's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Here.
we talked about,
I'm on
public-
mute.
we talked about public policy or,
Partners in policy making.
okay, we do that here at the ARC, and I'm with a group called, for the kids, called Rethink Discipline. We're working with the ACLU, and we're drafting a bill now that's concerning kids and being expelled from school.
Mm-hmm. I was one of those.
Yeah, but one thing how we get involved, the ARC got involved. There's a disproportionate number of kids with disabilities been expelled from school, and I get a bunch of them. I pretty much live in code of conduct. So we're crafting a bill, and we're gonna have a state senator introduce it, and so we're gonna get it some people. We want to get bipartisan support, and so we draft the bill. It goes to all over the state. So I know a bunch of Democrats in Detroit, so I got them covered. But the issue is Republicans outside of Detroit, or Republicans, or even Democrats, because you got to get X amount of number of people or senators to vote on a bill to get it passed and go to the House, go to the governor's office.
So what is the bill addressing?
Well,
specifically?
it's addressing a whole lot. One thing, we have a due process map, and part of that due process map is the 7 factors when you're expelling a kid from school. You have to go through these 7 factors. One is how old the kid is. One is does they have a disability or not. One is restorative practices. Can't think of the other ones. But anyway.
Wasn't it in Detroit where they arrested a 7-year-old and it was in the paper because the handcuffs, they just fell right off of him? They couldn't even.
Well, yeah, probably, yeah, because I had a kid in Southwest Detroit. He brought like a BB gun to school. They want to give him 180 days.
Well, in California, the way we deal with it is we have 52 counties and the County Office of Education. So if the main school expels them, they go to a community court school on probation, and they can get back into the mainstream if they have certain behavioral benchmarks that they meet. And so it's not an expulsion right away, because you just get segregated into almost a community court school. That's saying, it's like a warning saying you're really on the edge. Your next step is jail. Shape up. And it's kind of a tough love type of programming that, and it's each county office of education gets funded through a major state bill.
Oh God, they have something like that. They kind of do for the kids in charters. I did a school in Highland Park, a charter school in Highland Park, and they want to send this kid to this place called Ace Academy, and Ace, and I never heard of it before, and it turned out to be part of Calumet. I worked in juvenile justice back in the day, and I'm saying, you're not sending this kid to Calumet because, for having a little fisticuff fight. He was an emotionally impaired kid. Emotionally impaired kids, they get in the fights. That's what they do. But this kid, a lot of emotionally impaired kids are very, very bright. So he never had an IEP because he was so bright, but they just kept expelling him. And the only reason I got that kid because his little brother had an IEP. and that came up during that time. But they don't do that in DPS, but they just keep you home for 180 days. I think that might be just as bad.
They have the same thing in Ann Arbor. They have community high. And if you don't make it in the regular schools, then you go to community high. And it's basically all full of kids with disabilities that are on the margin. That are
okay, I take that back. They do have alternative schools in DPS. I just sorry about that. like a kid,
But the problem is the problem with these schools is, when's the mainstream vice principal going to let them back in? You know, when they the judgment of the benchmarks, what are true, fair, humane benchmarks?
Well,
a lot of times the kids just stay there where they're at.
Exactly, they get four cornered, and it's
the
just
problem
one
is the
step away
benchmarks
from-
that are being established are the benchmark for typical kids. They're not the benchmarks for a kid with disability. So basically, they're being expelled for being disabled, and they're not going to get back into mainstream school because they remain disabled.
That's easiest for them because they don't understand, and they don't take the time to understand. They don't look at it from other perspectives other than you did something wrong and you have to be punished. There's so
Right,
many.
yeah. That's where we're at.
The behavior. It's the behavior. Behavior doesn't just come about for no reason. And these kids are crying out for help, whether they're in the wrong environment, whatever it is. Somebody needs to help them. They're children. They don't know. If they didn't learn how to self-regulate, either because they weren't taught, they didn't have the nurturing, or they're disabled, whatever it is, okay, that's fine. We have a child now. Let's look at what's going on and see how we can help them without putting them in jail.
Well, I think the major factor in all of public education is there's not enough outside community support where they bring in mentors on a weekly basis of, I had a rough time in school, but now I'm a doctor. Now I'm a lawyer, but I was expelled. And it's that peer-to-peer modeling that parents have to go out and find it and find the person in their community, rather than the community. In the old days, it was all Renaissance. The way you learned a trade was you were trained. You didn't go to trade school. You went to a mechanic, and he taught you how to be a mechanic or photographer or whatever you wanted to do. It was always through mentoring and role modeling, and this whole standards thing and everyone learning the same thing takes all the creativity out of the individual teacher to bring in. It's not what I am now. It's bringing in the role models to say what I can be when I grow up, and that.
See, that form of education, though, was to train people to be submissive factory workers. You know, that's really what a lot of it was designed to do. So you submit, obey. It's militaristic. It's
all discipline.
Totally. And so, you know.
Well, you might have a point, because my grandma used to always tell me that we would go to Chicago, New York, and I would say, why come Detroit doesn't have, rail system or subway or, the L? And she would say, because the Fords and the GMs and the Chryslers want everybody to have a car.
Yeah.
And
so
Standard Oil bought up all the railroad tracks in the 1900s in California.
Yeah.
And they tore them up.
And so the education is like, you go to school, you go to high school, you go to Ford, Chrysler, GM. That's it. You don't have no choice. Those are your three choices. And that was like in the 70s. But that kind of like changed in the 80s.
Or if you get to go to college, then you have to become professionalized and look down on the uneducated.
Well, it's a ruling class.
Yeah.
It still is. It's the
I know.
20%. It's they call it the creative class now. They've tagged themselves as the creative class. But I really believe it's just because I knew what I wanted to be when I was 15 years old. So I self-directed my education. I wanted to be a photographer when I stopped playing hockey and getting hit by pucks, but I always self-directed, and I was a photographer by the time I was 21. And then I went into film, and that was just, but I had a lucky family. I had family support. I had multi-generations of artists, that went back 250 years. We were always involved in the arts in one way or the other, or the military. It was two ways in our family, the arts or the military. And
I look at kids, as being individuals about what you're saying is how you're directed towards a certain path. My first daughter was exceptional. I didn't know what to do. She was just in the 99th percentile all the time with all her standardized tests. She was always at the top of her class. She's graduated from Western. She's on a medical track now. She's 24, great. My youngest son, and I think the other ones, they had learning disabilities. And that's okay too, but I'm going to look at them with what they need, with how they can get it. I don't hold them to the same standards as her. My oldest son, he graduated from high school. He did a semester at Henry Ford College, and then COVID happened, and I'm like, God, he needs to be in the classroom. But he's determined. He said that, I don't want to go to college. And I'm like, that's okay, but you should go to trade school. But he already knows that there's something else. But I don't say that this is what you have to do. Your sister did it. This is how we have to go. My daughter is extremely creative. She's making things. She's got her online business going. I'm an entrepreneur myself, so I'm, supporting her in that way. Traditional school isn't always, they had to get through high school. That definitely was a given. But with their struggles and their experiences with school, I still didn't want to, deter them or give them, based on their experiences. Education is still continual. It's just, you can get it in different ways. And as long
what
as
I did, I raised 5 children, and at 7th grade, I sat him down and says, okay, you have 3 things that I'll support you in. Whatever those 3 things in, you can change them at any time. And a couple took the 3 things and stood with it the whole 6 years until they graduated. 3 others were changing every year. But I said but I gave them self-direction in 7th grade and say, I'll support you. So for instance, the last one, he goes, well, I want to graduate valedictorian. Or whatever came up with that idea, because he went to his sister's graduation. He wanted to say, who's that up on stage giving the keynote speech, when he was in 6th grade. And luckily my ex had two master's grades. Go, hey, honey, guess what you get? You get to support a valedictorian. Then he says, well, I want to become a better writer. I go, well, writer, that's an internal thing. You have to learn how to be honest with yourself and express yourself. I'll bring you to the writing seminars. I'm not a writer. Bing, bing, bang. So I brought him in the summer vacations to certain writing camps, and I found writing circles for him, and local writing circles for him to pop in. And he was always a kid in the writing circle at the coffee shops and that. And then the third one was, I want to learn how to make movies. So I used National History Day as the format to make 3 documentaries with them. The first one was on the Indians that got massacred in our backyard back in the 1850s. The second one was on beat writers, which tied into his writing thing. And the third one was on Ed Roberts, Wade Blank, and Justin Dart, which tied into his disability rights. So he could, because he was having problems from going muscular dystrophy, from having problems from being a walkie to a roller. And so he was going to wait till he moved out of high school to roll into college. But he was falling down and doing this crab walk up the wall for a couple years. So I had to I just guided him and say, hey, what about checking out guys in wheelchairs that succeeded, and that's how he got. It took him about 7 interviews of friends of Ed Roberts, Judy Heumann and superstars, John the Appalachian, and that. And by the time he got down to the FDR's Warm Springs camp, they had an extra wheelchair, and first time he used an electric wheelchair, and he ran the battery dry. And by that time he made the decision, oh, I got to get me one of these. What am I, stupid? Because he had to have access to the people that had to deal with the head trip of going to the transformation from being a walkie to a wheelchair user. But it's the same way with the mental health community. It's the same way with any disability. It's finding comfort, if you don't got it, you don't get it. And I really believe that in so many ways when it comes to mentoring. And I've always,
kids with disabilities don't get those opportunities, and that's, the whole reason that
plus the parents' responsibility, and the parents don't take the responsibility.
Well, it's not always the parents that are not taking. Sometimes it's more than that, because
Sure.
when,
agree with
when
that.
Teddy was little, I mean, when, little in terms of 12th grade, I'm thinking little, he went into transitional education. And in Michigan, you can stay in school until they're 26. It was the worst thing I ever did, was to keep him in transitional education.
Mhm.
This transitional education basically taught him the skills he needed to be nothing. I mean, I didn't find it gave him any goals beyond what they put in front of him.
They convinced him he was broke.
He was really, really lucky in that we ran into Dan Wilkins when he was about 22. He started helping him set up t-shirts for his business.
Oh,
And so then he got this vision. Oh, Dan makes t-shirts. I can make t-shirts. And he's become a t-shirt designer and a button maker.
There's this
And
guy.
that gave him-
There's this
you
guy.
know what? I
There's
think
this guy called Waterboy in South Carolina. Totally. I mean, totally DD. Got the full gamut, but he liked NASCAR. And he ended up selling water, having a water stand at all the races. So he now has a business and all the NASCAR people, he's in the garages and everything, and he's known as Waterboy. And he can't spell, he can't read, he can't, but here he is at NASCAR, being in love.
I think what happens is, like, in the transition, they have this little progression. Like, you go, especially with the kids with you get these certificates of completion. You go to Drew till you're 26, then you go to STEP and service to enhanced potential. But you don't get any working skills or entrepreneur skills or the idea of that until you get to STEP.
Right.
Then you get the
Teddy had this business when he started it. I think it was when he was 22, and he was in transitional ed until he was 26. His teacher, even when they were at the same conference and he was displaying his shirts at a conference, would not go to the table, would not look at what he was doing.
Yeah, because that wasn't what they're doing. So I don't know what they're supposed to teach you though. Drew has like a culinary arts program, and it's supposed to, I guess, I don't know. I'm not really familiar with it, but I guess it's not supposed to teach you how to become a chef or anything, to work on your own, anything like that. Maybe.
Right, but those are all real. I mean, what I've seen so far, all those, it's for really high functioning kids.
Right.
For Drew, you can't get into Drew at high functioning. You have to have, you have to be Mokai.
That's the transition center.
Yeah.
Maybe Lauren will do some changes there.
Well, they were trying. My issue is the Maikai, not the Maikai, the Maui cognitively impaired. They have nothing for them. So they've been in the category classroom. They graduate with certificate completion, and they get nothing. And they end up in the court system. That's how I get them. Because I have one judge who sends me, that are young adults now, and I go to, and I dig up the IEP, and they're always Maikai. And I'm saying, well, he couldn't go to Drew because he's Maikai. So, and I guess they don't know about STEP or anything like that, and they end up in the jail system, in the mildly cognitively impaired. So they can't navigate that probation, like doing your drops, doing this, doing that, doing this.
Well, especially in an urban atmosphere, the streets are always going to take these kids.
Right, and I get a lot of them from one judge.
The streets gobble them up, because they'll be someone's gopher and be accepted into a clique.
Yeah.
Which they interpret as being loved, which is actually they're just being furtherly abused emotionally.
Right. Yes, I think the person who does that needs to go to jail, not the person who's cognitively impaired. But that's another story. So when I get them, they're on probation, and so I have to get them off probation by giving them their community service, getting them to meet with their, right now.
Well, here's another idea that I have a problem with community service. they always do these most menial, degrading, picking up garbage in the park or raking and that. Community service should be working with the local business community for mentoring. Community service should be.
Well, yeah, but see, with community service, they don't do it like that. Tell you to find your own community service. You know, they might give you a list of, you know, some ideas. Find your own community service. That's what they do. Then, if you don't do these things, you're violated and you're on probation even longer. So it kind of keeps you in the system.
Yeah, well, see, for me, community services should be an outreach. Like, put them on a construction site. You know, that's better than the streets. Put them.
Well, yeah,
put them in a grocery store.
But then again, you have to find the construction sites willing to take someone who's in a criminal justice.
Yeah, you know, because they're always the mainstream is always gonna look at us as a liability.
Right. Exactly.
You know.
That's our big, you know.
They're gonna look at it like bad apples, and then why would I want a bad apple to turn my good apples? You know.
Right.
And
so it's hard to get a good community service, you know, partner for that population. Anyway, it's 4 o'clock. I got to run. This has been very, very good.
Glad you joined us.
We're here every day.
Yeah.
Well, there's 4 of us that are real regulars.
Okay. And
Yeah,
thank you very much, Claire.
Me and
Claire.
Scott and Elaine.
Oh, Mike, you haven't said anything. Who are you?
Who?
Hello?
I have to go too, but it was great
Okay.
talking to everyone. I appreciate it.
Thank you
Thanks
so much.
Oh, Mike
Bye
is
now.
on mute. Somebody has Mike muted.
There he is.
Oh.
I just wanted to say hello because you hadn't said anything. So I always look for.
Yeah, I only said yes. I only said good afternoon. But hold on 1 second. Anyway, my name is Mike Howard. I'm from Queens, New York, and
Oh, cool.
I was a special ed student from 1989 through 2002,
Wow.
and back then I was I guess to say everything was safe during my school years, and right now I have a feeling we're not safe during this pandemic we in. You know what I mean? And I just want to, whoever lives in the Flint area, I just want to say, I feel so sorry for y'all of having very bad water.
The water problem, yes.
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 It has increased the number of students with disabilities to 18,000.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
But just, oh my God, the developmental
In Genesee
disabilities that
County.
we haven't even touched on yet.
Right.
That,
So the Genesee Intermediate School District is working with the Flint Community Schools to address that issue.
Oh, I just want to say this. The only independent network is the independent network who cover a story of Flint, Michigan having PFAS water. PFAS in a water is status quo.
Amy Goodman did good reporting on it too from
Oh
Democracy
yes,
Now!
yes, Democracy Now! Yes, I also watched that too.
Yeah.
At least
Real news.
At least I watched all the real news that tell the truth.
So
Mainstream.
how'd you find out about this event today?
I found out through Eventbrite.
Eventbrite.
Yeah, I was hoping y'all have this organization, this disabled rights or human rights for New York.
Well, this is for the whole country.
Yes.
So Do you have email?
Yes, I have email.
Could you type it in the chat?
Yeah,
You
put
know
it.
how-
Sure will. Put it in
And
the
then
chat.
Keep you in the loop.
Susan will keep you posted on what's happening every day.
Okay. Oh, you want me to put it to you?
Just put it in the chat.
Okay, I'll put it to everybody.
Yeah, right.
All right.
We're glad you joined us. And Dara, we're glad you joined us also.
Thank you so much. I'm putting my information in the chat right now.
Okay, and where are you located?
Who, me?
I support families in Central Wayne County, so I do Detroit, Hamtramck, Highland Park, Harper Woods, and Grosse Pointe. So with Detroit being the largest school district in the state, that's where I get a lot of my my families from. So I try to continually stay abreast on what Detroit Public School Community District is doing so that I can be prepared to answer the questions, because I know I find a lot of the families, they want a helping hand with looking at things. Sometimes they want you to give the information also, but I'll give it to them, but I also show them where to find it and where to continue to find things, because they have to learn to advocate for themselves and their families and learn where to find information. It's good to always contact us, but we're going to point you to more information, and they have to look at it and read it. And I know there's challenges with parents, and that's why we offer our one-on-one services, whereas before
Went silent.
Yeah, somehow we lost you.
Dara, can you hear us?
I don't know, something happened to her sound.
Well, so Michael,
Mike, we do something every day. So you're welcome to come and check us out. I'll send you the calendar, and every day at 2, we do something. Some things might not be of interest to you, but some things might.
So Mike, are you a parent now?
Oh no, I'm not a parent. Actually, I live alone under Wildlife Network, and I have also. Did I mention I have a Yes, I have a mild intellectual disability. I did mention that I was a special ed student, which means I have a mild intellectual developmental disability, and I'm a self-advocate and an activist.
Good job.
So have you ever reached out to SABE in New York City?
To SABE?
Yeah, it's Self-Advocates Becoming Empowered.
Oh, you mean Sandy's? Yes.
They call it Sandy's in Queen?
In New York, they call it. In New York, they call the self-advocate group is called Sandy's.
Oh, okay.
It stands for Self-Advocate of New York State.
Okay, that's a great organization.
Yeah,
you get access to great programming and community.
Yeah, I've been
the problem with people with disabilities, it's community. That's why we're doing this. It's so often, especially with the COVID, we end up being four-walled.
Yeah.
Because we have certain susceptibilities to the pandemic, and this is all about building community in that. But just wanted to do a shout out to so you get connected if you weren't connected, that you had that in your toolbox.
Yeah, I'm not just a self-advocate. I'm not just a self-advocate for Sandy's. I'm also a self-advocate for OPWDD. Sandy's and OPWDD combined.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm about to say is I'm also a consumer. I'm also a consumer for Sydney, which stands for Center for the. Center
I've been there. Susan Duha.
Yes.
Yes. That's where I met Elaine. Was at Sydney's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome back, Dara. We lost you there for a minute.
Hey, welcome back.
Phone died, and so I had to hurry up and log on to my computer. I'm sorry, I'm finished typing my information in. I was like,
Okay, great.
That's the fun of now. Everybody has to like make do with technology that keeps having burps or farts or whatever you want to call them. They just don't work sometimes.
but that's what we do. We make it work, whatever we have, and we work our way around it, right?
That's what we do, or we try to figure out how somebody could help us get it fixed.
And then tell somebody else how they can get it fixed too. We
There you
we gotta
go.
help each other.
Anyway, that's that's
Hey.
another one of my songs. We're in this together, and that's the truth. We are in this together, all of us, and that's the blessing. I think that it's important, especially when things are very, very difficult, to always look for the blessings. The blessings are always there. But if we're preoccupied by the yucky stuff, then we won't even notice the blessings. But if we look for them, we will find the blessings. And that's why I call them backhanded blessings. Life is a series of backhanded blessings. Ever so often, the universe goes, whack! Now that I've got your attention, because that's when we learn. And right now, we're getting whacked pretty good, aren't we? So
Yeah, we're getting whacked. We're getting
That's
whacked by
it.
we're getting whacked by both parties in our federal government.
thank you very much. Well, that's why we, the people, need to find each other and embrace each other. All different kinds of people.
Exactly.
That's what we're doing. And that's why this is just such a precious place to do it, because I've been meeting just wonderful people from all over the place, and everybody has been so welcoming and inclusive. And when I know
Fancy that.
yeah, I love it. So keep coming back.
Man, I sure will when it comes to any other upcoming events. I'm gonna come.
All right, and spread the word.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure I spread the word to other people from other organizations I've been through now.
That would be great.
So Susan's got your email address. We're waiting for Darius. She's keeping quiet.
I think she's typing.
I'm typing, I'm sorry, but I'm always at Michigan Alliance for Families. We tell the parents, you can go on our website and they'll tell you where all the mentors are, and you'll have the contact information for whoever is in your area.
So are you Darla at Michigan Alliance for Families.org?
Let's see.
.com.
Yep, just my first name is DARA at Michigan Alliance for Families. .org.
Great. Because your area is the same area that our offices are in.
Oh,
and
okay.
A lot of our programs. We did a lot of programming in Highland Park. We did programming in Hamtramck.
Yes, yes.
So
Thank you guys so much. This has been so wonderful. And just think, had we not gone through all of this, we wouldn't be forced to connect so much, so widespread. We're able to do all these Zoom meetings and see everybody in their own environments and be comfortable and just talk about what we love and what we're passionate about, and to continue to help people and spread information and pull other people in. Because like what you were saying, that, we don't have the mentors anymore. People need to know how important it is for them to reach out and help somebody else. There's so much to do. There's so much work for everyone to do. And, it's just like, with Christians, you want to bring another one on. And, see who else is somebody out there. And just like with Mike, he's a person that was a student that went through things that through a system that was a lot different when he was a student from now. And that's another thing I have to talk with parents about, because they're fearful of special education because of what they experience. And I have to remind them that special education is services, it's not a place, and everyone deserves to be educated. Every child can learn. We have to learn how they learn in order to teach them, but you have to take the time to do that. You have to be passionate about it. Help others. You know, this is definitely a time to be human and help everybody, regardless of how we look. We all look the same on the inside. We all feel, we all hurt. We're all passionate, and we can all help. That's the bottom line.
Well, Ed Roberts, the founder of the independent living movement back in the 70s, when he was director of rehab in California, he came up with a saying. He goes, he was on a respirator, lived in an iron lung. He was a post-polio kid. He said, I hate the word special. It means it's twice as expensive and half as good.
I like that the schools uses exceptional students, because they are exceptional. They learn, they see the world like no other. It's up to us so-called normal people to see how special they are and to get into their world and to help guide them, just like we would with anybody else. Like I said, I had an exceptional child. She was truly exceptional. I thought she was on the spectrum. She may be. I didn't go that far. I just had to give her all that she required. And the others got it too. You know, they are receptive differently, but you know, it's just, it takes special people like us to look at other individuals and their exceptionalities and expound on them.
I've never been accused of being normal.
I can believe that, you know, but
I've been weird my whole life, and that's okay.
I'm looking at
and you know, everybody's different. Everybody's an individual. And you know, so the thing is, don't put anybody down for who they are. Yeah. That's the key to everything as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
With society, go ahead, Elaine.
No, go ahead. It's all right.
Okay, what society teaches people indirectly, I think, is when you have hidden disabilities, if you just act dumb and say nothing, no one will ever bother you. They'll just, you know, so you end up, you learn how to observe and hide. And that it's
And I gravitate to people. I have 17 years experience with Head Start, and so what I did was, it was difficult for parents to hear that their child has special needs. So you know, it's like they're grieving, but I teach them to, it's okay, because you're not out there by yourself. Your child is just as special as you thought they always were. You need to look at your role now as the person to let everybody else know how special your child is, and to just be their voice to make sure that, you know, they get what they deserve. But my job, what I loved about my job at Head Start was the disability awareness. And not only for just the staff, the teachers and the parents, you know, and keeping confidentiality, but for the 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, and teaching them that, okay, your friend is a little different, but they need the same things you did. And they love it. They take care. And that's where we start with the little ones, because that's learned behavior. All the hatred and things we see now is learned behavior. And if we can just start from maybe not necessarily the cradle, but as close to it as possible, just putting out that disability awareness, that it'll take care of itself for that generation, because they'll learn and they'll know how to be helpful. Because like what they were saying before, they never saw kids like that. How do you know how to empathize or even just socialize with somebody that's different if you've never experienced it? So, you know, just letting them know as early as possible that, you know, these people exist, and how can you be a positive influence to them? How can you help them? What can you learn from them? Because they could probably teach you something, you know? And I just love that about
are interesting. if we teach children
we're
that
all different. Look
differences
at all
are
of us.
interesting, be curious. You know?
Yes.
That's,
Yes.
you
I
know,
always
I've
have-
always felt that way since I was a kid. You know, I wanted to know about all different kinds of people and all different places and whatever, and all different colors and religions and everything. I was fascinated. I thought it was really fun. I was
I always think about the song in The King and I that says you have to be carefully taught
yes.
before you are 6 or 7 or 8.
I
To
think
hate all the people that your relatives hate.
Yep. That's true.
I learned that as a very young child, and I always remembered it.
I think that was in South Pacific. You must.
Was
be
it South
carefully taught.
Pacific?
Yeah, you must be carefully taught.
Okay,
Yeah.
you know better than I, but
Well, the only
but
reason
I
I know
remember the
is
song.
my partner, Katie Van Black, bless her soul, she's been gone for 3 years now. But she and her husband had adopted some children, and some of them were indigenous children. And anyway, so they were in South Pacific and performed that.
Oh,
And Katie
okay.
found it was a very helpful, because they had to deal with a lot of racism because they were indigenous. And so they had to deal with that. And so
Well,
Katie,
thanks for setting me straight.
well, she wasn't straight either. I mean, she was for a while, but you don't
See,
have
that's
to be
where the
straight as
flaw
far as
is
I'm
in special
concerned.
education with the separate but equal, equal but separate. It's everyone's going to have to learn how to take bullying, and they're going to have to learn how to. They're going to have to learn how to deflect this. And if they don't learn that until they're 26 years old, what the heck are they going to do for the next 50 years? You
No,
know?
I worked with the
Just-
challenging children. I said, you know, with the quiet ones, don't let them do that to you. Let them know, I don't like that, and don't do it again. You know, teaching 3-year-olds to stand up for themselves or even their friends. And I work with the mental health, and I said, first of all, look at their face. How do you think they feel with, you know, behind the actions that they just did, of course, but it was just to teach them that these are people who have feelings, and what you did impacted them. And, you know, you need to change that. But it's all a teachable moment, as they would say.
Well, this might come in
My
handy.
son was really tiny. I would used to drive around in the car with him, and I would say to him, I said, Teddy, I said, you're retarded. And he'd look at me, and I'd say no. He'd say, no. I'd say it louder. And then we would practice in the car, say it, because I knew nobody else could hear us. So I
I'd
could
say,
say,
no,
I
my
could say
name
as
is,
loud as
you
I
know.
could, and you say it back as loud as you can. Just tell them no. And I felt I had to empower him to say no, because we
Yes.
teach our kids
Yes.
not to say no.
But
Here's
did
a
it
philosophy
bother
that
him?
came out of all the places, Bozeman, Montana. They had an autism group of kids that were tired of being put on the spectrum, you know, because there's different levels of spectrometry or whatever. And they came up and they used just genetics and said, hey, mom has 35,000 genes, dad had 35,000 genes, I'm the result, and guess what? You're all on the spectrum. You just don't know it.
That's smart. And it may very well be so too, right?
Yeah, we're all on the spectrum. It's
Some spectrum or other.
70,000 genes shooting for 35,000 spots. There's going to be kinks in everyone's armor.
Yes.
Well, I
Thank
just
you
want to
so
thank everyone for participating. I kind of feel like I need to get off now and go do something else.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
I got some emails
All
to
right.
send out.
We'll see you
Thank you
tomorrow.
guys so much.
Sending love to you each and all. And
Stay safe and corona free.
oh, that's the plan. I live in disabled senior housing, so
Oh,
It is what it is.
in a hot spot.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh well,
in more than one way.
indeed.
Oh, yes, indeed.
But I'm thankful I have a safe place to be, and I have enough money to pay my rent. So I'm still lucky.
That's very helpful.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
I
That's
agree.
blessed.
Speaking of rent, we got to be careful with the eviction moratorium.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that expired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scary.
I
Lot
mean,
of
most of
people
us
in
are going.
trouble.
most of us is going to get evicted.
Mm.
And there's so many, more than 50 of us millions lost jobs also.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The main thing is we got to keep our spirits up, because if we get depressed, then they got us.
Yes.
So we have to keep supporting each other, do whatever it is that we can do to spiritually stay hopeful. That's
Yes.
what we need to do, and encourage anybody you see or know who's getting discouraged, including
Exactly.
yourself.
This is
Okay,
our
bye-bye. I'm going now. Bye.
All right.
Me too. Gonna go
Okay,
too.
see you guys.
So
Thank
long,
you so
everybody.
I stay isolated.
much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you everybody for coming.
All right.
I hope I see you again, Mike. Hope you see you again, Darla.